dire, je comprends toujours pas ce que vous faites exactement.
Bah, je produis la Unrua.
C'est le cœur de la montre.
Well, I mean, it's called the heart of the watch. It's in the center, and it's this kind of spastic thing that moves around. And I guess the correct translation would be balance wheel, but so in Swiss German it's called Unruhe. And yeah, so my grandmother was working on this piece, my great grandmother, all my grand aunts, so in my family. Yeah, many women worked all their life producing this piece. So it was mainly performed by women. Yeah, and still in the watches today.
Before they had a chance to vote.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Crazy, that's crazy, yeah.
Dear friend, I have arrived in the Swiss Jura Mountains. The valley is, with no doubt, the capital point of the International Anarchist Rotation Circle.
La nation, c'est un fantôme. Une société anarchiste existe toujours.
Puis en fait, c'était la première fois que les femmes aient gagné le même salaire comme les hommes. Après, ils se sont tous tués.
I think it's interesting that like this Swiss watchmaking people, yeah, or like the women in the film, the workers, that they produced like the center of the mechanic, which was so defining, you know, and for this early industrial capitalist age, it was so important, this kind of time measurement, because you could like optimize the production process, you know, like the organization of the factories. It was really, yeah, not only machines, but also for the entire organization. It was so fundamental. So I think it is kind of funny that in that place, like the first anarchist, let's say, division of socialism started to happen. And yeah, I think it's also what really attracted me about all of this is that it was like, it was not, of course there was the talk about revolution in early socialist groups or anarchist groups, but I think what happened in the Swiss watchmaking valleys, that they really were looking for, like, let's say, like a small like local small between you and me revolution, how you organize, how you make changes, you know, transformations in the invention of our reality, you know, and yeah.
That was modernism.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Monsieur, un don pour la patrie. Monsieur là-bas, 77.
Bravo,
Félicitations.
Vous lisez pas la presse anarchiste?
Non.
Grâce à leur réseau télégraphique, j'ai pu anticiper la crise et sauver des parts.
Actually, when I talked to a lot of people to make this film, of course, with my family and but also a lot of other people. However, there was one person, my grand uncle Paul is his name, Paul. And so I asked him this kind of naive question. I think it's really naive, but I asked him. So I asked him, so what is time for you, you know, as a watchman? And he looked at me and he was like, what do you mean? I mean, time, okay, we have to differentiate. There is the physical phenomenon of matter and moving, you know, which is still completely mysterious why things move in the first place at all, matter. So that is one thing we call time, which has nothing to do with watches, because, and then he said, what watches do is just you create a tick and a tack, and by creating these two elements, you can make like a series of events and compare other series of events. Like, let's say you need 10 ticks and tacks from here to move my hand to you or something, so you can start to measure things passing by. So, and then he said something interesting, I think. He said, so from that point of view, the first watch was not a mechanical object, but in language. So the definition of, like, let's say today and tomorrow is also like a tick and a tack. We agree that today is today, this word means today, and tomorrow means day after. And this is fundamental for organization, of course, you know, when you say, okay, tomorrow we harvest, or tomorrow we go and leave the cave, or, you know, you need to agree so you can plan. So in that sense, that's what I then said to him, is that, I mean, a so-called story or fiction or a narrative, or also history, of course, is also a series of events that you put together, and you say this happens and that happens and that happens. So you put together events. That's fundamentally, I guess, what you do. And maybe this to answer your question. So there is some, for me, interesting connection between watchmaking and film.
Stell dich, ja. Arrêtez, entrez pas dans l'image, s'il vous plaît.
Kropotkin, Piotr. Ah, Saint-Pétersbourg. Quel est le motif de votre voyage?
I think maybe more than like preciseness, I was interested in something I would maybe call construction. In the first place, like to show that this film is a construction, even though it's historical, you know, because to show that it is constructed, you know, and that it is put together and made up, and not to try to kind of seduce. I mean, it's all this kind of Brechtian discourse, maybe, but to show the people who watch the film, my wish is that they are aware that they're looking at a film, at a construction, and not forgetting that they're in a cinema. Because I think it's very important that, especially with the historical film, to be open or transparent, that it is a selection of information that you take from the 19th century out of many informations, and you juxtapose them and put them together and present some idea of the 19th century, but it is only an idea. It is not the ultimate reality, of course, of the 19th century, because how could we do this? And so that was important in a sense, also how to show that what I think we try to show with this film, the beginning of the capitalism and the nations, also the national states, which took place in the 1850s, 60s, 70s. It is really important not to forget. Also time measurement also goes into that all these things are inventions and constructions and not the ultimate reality for us. So, yeah.
Gemäss einer Mitgliederliste und der Fotografie hier haben wir Grund zur Annahme, dass die 4 erwähnten Arbeitskräfte Mitglieder in der lokalen anarchistischen Assoziation sind.
So it's important to say that there are nobody's an actor in the film. They're all either friends of mine or watchmakers. There's also a truck driver and farmers and but no acting people, professional acting people. So the idea was really to, although of course the film had a script and everything, but to also sort of reenact historical situations with people from today who have nothing to do with film or acting, and just to observe how they would do this together. How they would like this, as I think this scene in the film when they go and vote, and the policemen tell them that they cannot vote because they didn't pay the taxes. I was like, how will they do this? And then it was funny when we were doing it. I mean, one of the policemen who acted as a policeman, he's a truck driver and a farmer, but he was also in the Swiss army, like this, you know, this person. And I thought how this kind of strange authority that they expressed was so, I thought like we have the same situations today from the 19th century dressed in other clothes or in other setups and other things, you know. So it was really important for me to kind of not trying to make the people who appear in the film some idea of the 19th century, but really as the people that they are today. And somehow magically, that was my wish, to still reproduce a language that was spoken in the 19th century. Somehow that is like a phantom or ghosts come and transform into them standing there somehow.
Gemäss paragraphe 3, article 6 du règlement actualisé, une telle adhésion entraîne un licenciement inconditionnel.
Extra langsam gemacht.
I think the body of work of Kropotkin is really big, and I think it is incredibly actual, many of the things he was writing about. I think mostly this one book that I really like, it's called Mutual Aid. It was published in 1902, I think, 1901, and it is really, it's a reaction to the work of Darwin, not a critique that he says in the beginning. He just says that in the work of Darwin there is a big focus on the struggle, but he also mentions aid systems and help. It's also part of it's also part of the thing. So what I think what Kropotkin did with his book Mutual Aid is that he only mentions mutual aid systems, not referring to struggle and fight and conflict, whatever that is. And I think that is really interesting, the direction of the mind, what you attend with your mind and what you look at actually. And I think we are now, it feels to me, in a time which is so defined by competition and fight and conflict, or like this American guy called Peter Thiel, I don't know if you know him, the PayPal founder who was the tech advisor of Trump, who always talks about disruption, and it's so violent in so many ways. I think the structures that we created, and I think it is really important to focus on aid and mutual aid, and so I would really recommend everybody to read this book. And yeah, I think what's also important is that Kropotkin or other anarchist people, I think they let go of a kind of an idea of a revolution, because I think they quickly realized, or there is a citation of Simone Weil, this anarcho-syndicalist philosopher, and she said, not religion is the opium for the people, but the revolution is the opium for the people, because the revolution is has a religious element in it, like this catechism kind of paradise idea that one day the real revolution comes and then things will be fine. And this is, of course, kind of a joke, but people believed in it. So, but I think what's interesting about Simone Weil or Kropotkin or other people like Erich Mühsam or Gustav Landauer is that they try to focus on this what I tried to mention before, it is kind of between you and me, everyday life situation, and how we manage that. In fact, the real taking down what happens in the end between the people, beyond the government or a big kind of centralized idea of a state, which of course also the communism got to that model. So yeah, I think it is actual, these thoughts from anarchist movement in the 19th century.
Qui, eux, sont provoqués par l'échappement, qui fait le mouvement qui revient et qui part et qui revient et qui part. Et des deux côtés, il y aura des impulses qui vont définir cette vitesse. Vous comprenez?
Je pense.